Follow Famous and Gravy on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Famous and Gravy early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Don't just fill a position, find the ideal candidate who will drive your business forward. For qualified candidates who match your needs, try Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results now with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/WonderyUS. Just go to Indeed.com/WonderyUS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/WonderyUS. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
This message comes from Capital One. The Capital One Venture X business card has no preset spending limit, so the card's purchasing power can adapt to meet business needs. Plus, the card earns unlimited double miles on every purchase, so the more a business spends, the more miles earned. And when traveling, the Venture X business card grants access to over 1,000 airport lounges. The Venture X business card. What's in your wallet? Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/VentureXBusiness.
This is Famous and Gravy, biographies from a different point of view. To participate in our opening quiz, email us at hello@famousandgravy.com. Now here's the quiz to reveal today's dead celebrity.
This person died 2024, age 93. He started out in destitute days working in a diner and living in a $19 a month cold water flat.
93.
Hung in there for a while.
George Orwell.
Not George Orwell.
He's probably dead for a while, huh?
I think so. Yeah, but too dead. Not George Orwell. All right. He collected Tonys, Golden Globes, Emmys, Kennedy Center honors, and an Honorary Academy Award. He once appeared in 18 plays in 30 months. He often made a half a dozen films a year in addition to his television work, and he did it for a half a century.
Oh, I feel like I should know who this is.
Tony Bennett?
Not Tony Bennett. Good guess. Not Tony Bennett. He was a bear of a man, 6 feet 2 inches and 200 pounds. He dominated the stage with his barrel chest, large head, and emotional fires.
I hope someone describes me that way. Sure.
Oh, a big man. Burt Reynolds?
Not Burt Reynolds. Good guess. We've done a Burt Reynolds episode. He did voiceover work in the original Star Wars trilogy and in The Lion King.
That's not James Earl Jones, is it?
James Earl Jones?
Today's dead celebrity is James Earl Jones.
It's the concept of contentment that replaces the word happiness. If you're content with contentment, which is just, being at ease with yourself and at ease with who you are, where you are, when you are. What drives you then? Who would be content with leaning into a microphone, half asleep, saying, "I have you now, Obi-Wan Kenobi." See what I mean? And to get that kind of reaction, that feeds my contentment.
Welcome to Famous and Gravy. I'm Michael Osborne.
I'm Nichelle Carr.
And on this show, we choose a famous figure who died in the 21st century, and we take a totally different approach to their biography. What didn't we know? What can we not see clearly? And what does a celebrity's life story teach us about ourselves? Today, James Earl Jones died 2024, age 93. All right, I am thrilled to once again have Nichelle Carr back on the show. Nichelle joined us previously for the Prince episode, as well as Gregory Peck. Nichelle, thank you for making time for the James Earl Jones episode.
Thank you for having me. Always happy to be here.
Okay, you and I got on the horn a few weeks ago and said, let's do the James Earl Jones episode. We were both excited about it. I want to know how your feelings about James Earl Jones changed as a result of the research. Are you more into him, less into him, very differently into him than when you first started?
Yeah, so I started out being like, oh my God, this is going to be fun because he has such an eclectic body of work.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing the research, I was like, wait, hold up a minute. His views
Yeah.
on like politics and stuff. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Say what?
Yeah.
And then I listened to more of his interviews, reading more of his stuff and kind of digging in deeper. And he's just such a lovely person.
Yeah.
Like, that's what won me over, is that even his views on politics, when you listen to him, they're not that off. He definitely has some hot takes that I so want to get into.
Totally. And I know you will.
But yeah, he's really lovely. And once you understand his motivation, it really kind of makes sense.
So you've done a full circle with them. You were kind of like, wait, what? And then like, okay, maybe. All right, I'm back where I started. Okay, that answers the question. I had almost the exact same journey. Let's just get into it. Category 1, grading the first line of their obituary. James Earl Jones, a stuttering farm child who became a voice of rolling thunder as one of America's most versatile actors in a stage, film, and television career that plumbed race relations, Shakespeare's rhapsodic tragedies, and the faceless menace of Darth Vader, died on Monday at his home in Dutchess County, New York. He was 93. Holy cow, what a first line of an obituary. All right, Nichelle, your reactions.
That's pretty good, actually.
It was incredible. It was just amazing.
Yeah, they managed to get it all in there.
Totally, right? I mean, I think it does deviate from form in the way that there's stuff in here I don't think everybody knows. I'm not sure most people knew that he was a stuttering farm child, which is something we've got to talk about because the journey with his voice is one of the more incredible parts of his story. I really like Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got such literal resonance and like bass and boom to it. America's most versatile actors in a stage, film, and television. I love that they got all three of those things. This man was on stage in all its forms throughout the 20th century. Plumbed race relations, Shakespeare, and they got Darth Vader. They had to get Darth Vader in there. I mean, for me, it's just like checking all the boxes. I loved this. I don't know if you're as hot on this as I am.
No. Look, he is literally a basso profundo. That is the tenor and timbre of his voice, right? Rolling Thunder is great imagery. I don't know if I would have thought of that. So I'm actually quite impressed by that.
Yeah.
The fact that they put stuttering first is really true to him. So I appreciate that. How they talked about plumbed race relations. I mean, some of his most remarkable work puts race at the forefront because they're about Black characters. And at the time of his peak, which is 60s, 70s, that is where America was. Like, we saw everything through that lens.
It's interesting that you call that his peak. I mean, that's not what I knew him for.
Right. Well, that's an interesting thing. He has this peak on like stage and film.
Yeah.
And then he has this other, like, you know, I mean, that's part of the reason why we got excited about it, because I saw Conan the Barbarian. And I was like, yo, we got to do James Earl Jones.
Yeah, totally.
Because he kills in Conan the Barbarian. So, and then one other thing about the obituary, they mentioned Shakespeare.
Yes.
He is one of the greatest Shakespearean actors, period, full stop.
Totally.
Just is.
Totally.
He nails the material. He is built literally for the material in terms of his voice, in terms of his presence.
Yeah.
The fact that they got that in there as well is amazing.
In his memoir, when he talks about all his portrayals of Othello and how he came to the role, I really had a moment of like, oh, this is an incredibly thoughtful actor. Like that there's all these different interpretations of that character. I ate that up in a way that I need people like that to guide me through Shakespeare. I can't come into it unfiltered. I need somebody who understands the material and the characters and the conflict. To your point, 1,000%. He is a quintessential Shakespearean actor.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, is it missing anything then? I mean, is there something that you would have wanted to have gotten in here that they didn't get in here? I gotta say, they got Darth Vader in here. Like so that they had to.
Yeah, well, you know what? So Darth Vader is perfect because, one, he makes Darth Vader what he is. Like, Darth Vader is also kind of undisputed one of the greatest villains in cultural history. Yeah. So.
And I guess we should say, for anybody who doesn't know, he wasn't his body. So he talks about it as if it's a special effect thing. But whatever.
Right, exactly, which is really interesting. He wasn't even credited in the first film.
Right.
But George Lucas knew he wanted James Earl Jones. And so Darth Vader touches off the voice work that we start to know him for later on.
Yes.
And so just by mentioning Darth Vader, you then point to The Lion King. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes you to
and CNN,
all the other
yeah.
CNN and all that kind of stuff. Like, that little reference opens the door to all of those things, so you kind of get it in through that.
I thought not only did it honor him and cover all this ground, it hints at a great story. This whole stuttering farm child, voice
Who became a voice of Rolling Thunder.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a journey there.
Exactly, and you want to learn more about that. So I have my score. I don't do this often. I give it a perfect 10 out of 10. I have no notes on this. This one nailed it for me.
I can't. Also, because the fact that they said farm child, like the way he loves wilderness, that's in there too. So it's personal to him as well.
1,000%.
I can't find fault either.
All right, 10 out of 10. Well done, New York Times. This is what we're here for. This is why we have this category.
Good for you. You fail us in so many ways, New York Times.
But
you
today,
got this one right.
On this day, you got this one right. All right, category 2, 5 things I love about you. Here, Nichelle and I will develop a list of 5 things that offer a different angle on who James Earl Jones was and how he lived. I would love for you to kick us off, Nichelle. What do you got for this category?
Okay. My first one is, I stutter, therefore I am.
Nice.
This is because James was so upfront and forthright about his stuttering. Like, I admire how he really embraced that as part of his identity. And it's amazing how he'll be in interviews and, people will be saying, wait, you used to stutter as a child? He's like, I am fighting the stuttering right now.
Yeah, I
You know
still
what I
do
mean?
it. Yeah.
He was quick to remind them that I'm still a stutterer. I'm always managing my stutter.
Anybody that makes fun of them or inadvertently laughs, I understand it completely. As a stutterer, it's not that I condone ridicule, but I knew why the kids were laughing at me behind me at Sunday school. It's so nervous making. It creates such anxiety in everybody that you laugh.
He just embraces it so fully, and it's so kind of humble. And I think it's inspiring for people who have to manage that, and for any kind of speech impediment, and for him to be one of the greatest voices, not only of our generation, but because we have recordings, he's going to go down in history. And we'll talk about later how his voice is going to live on in the future. So for him to have this amazingly unique voice is unbelievable.
It really is like turning what was a disability into your greatest strength. It reminded me of Maya Angelou, who was mute for a period of time when she was young. So the story is, he was born in Mississippi. His parents split before he was born. He was largely raised by his grandparents, and they moved from Mississippi to rural Michigan when he's like 6 years old, and that's when the stutter develops. And he later says, that must have been traumatic. I think that's why this stutter came about. So he's largely mute for 10 years or 8 years, something like that, age 6 to
8 years.
Yeah, age 6 to age 14 or so. And then he has this high school teacher who is apparently very compassionate and has given him a lot of space. He hands in this poem, Ode to a Grapefruit, and he's like, this is really good, but how do I know you wrote it? The only way to know is if you read it aloud. And he kind of coaxes him into it. And then he discovers if something is written down and is read, he can begin to overcome his stutter that way. That is what plants the seed for acting, that he has a comfort with the written word and performance because for whatever reason, his brain allows that disconnection between his stuttering and when he has to actually read lines aloud.
I think for me, what's really remarkable is that he wasn't, like you said, he wasn't born with a stutter. It came from this destabilizing time in his life that he processed as trauma.
Yes.
He wasn't born with it. He didn't have to continue to identify as a stutterer.
Yeah, he could have buried that. That's so true.
Yeah, it was a phase, and he says he's still managing it. And obviously with what his voice has become, it's something that would never come up. So it's not anything that people would be like, what are you not telling us, James? Like, so he didn't have to embrace it. And the fact that he does and is so forthright about it, it's just really beautiful. Like, there's something about it that almost makes me emotional when he's like, I am stuttering right now. You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, the other thing that came up in his memoir that floored me to some extent was that when he got into acting, he had this intentionality and this sort of reverence for language because so much of his life as a stutterer, and not exactly mute, but he would avoid using his voice if he didn't have to, was a desire for expression. And so that when he found that outlet, it like exploded out of him. and that's what
Right,
we get
right.
for the entirety of his career is this like explosion of expression.
And it's also funny because he has this passion for language, but he also says that he comes at language different from other actors. He comes at it standing on his head because he has to parse it out and take it apart and break it down and search for meaning. And so he also sees language as like a really weak attempt to express emotion. And I think he has thought about it to that extent because he spent years feeling like he didn't have power over it
That's right.
and didn't have access to it.
Okay, wonderful number one. We had to start there. I'll give you my number two. I wrote Lead from Behind. We started to talk about this a second ago when we talked about his peak. So his story is that he really put in the work for 14 years, grinding away largely in New York, Broadway, and really importantly, off-Broadway. The Great White Hope was sort of a breakout role for him, although he did get cast as his favorite bit of trivia of mine in Dr. Strangelove before that play and then eventually that movie. And he is a leading man, certainly on stage. But I was thinking about all the movies I know him from. It's actually a lot of supporting cast. Hunt for Red October, Field of Dreams, Coming to America, which was sort of surprising. I would have thought, shouldn't there be a movie, because he has such innate leadership qualities, where he is the leading man and he's a Best Actor candidate, and there are, but they all predate what I knew. I see leadership qualities in him, but I'm sort of surprised that there's actually no role that I knew, post 1980, where he is top dog.
Yeah, I felt the same way. And so I immediately had to kind of go back, and it kind of leads into my next thing that I love about him.
Yeah, let's do it. Do your thing number three.
Which is Master Thespian. So a friend of mine used to say this thing. He called them 27%ers. People who, whatever film they showed up in, they made it 27% better. James Earl elevates everything that he's in. So if you look at his past films, he was absolutely a towering figure. But when you look at his later work, it's a lot of cameo roles.
Yeah.
It's a lot of supporting cast parts. And he says it's because, one, stage was his first love. Not that he did not like theater or film, but stage was his first love. And he really would do film and TV to pay the bills so he could then go back and do stage work. And so he was choosing film and TV roles with that in mind. Like, is it a good cast? Is it someone that I want to work with? So he really kind of got to pick and choose exactly what he wanted to do. And so it's almost like you sprinkle the James Earl Jones dust on your film, and it elevates your film. Let's talk about Darth Vader and Star Wars real quick. Darth Vader would not be Darth Vader if it weren't for that voice. The voice is so iconic and so foreboding. I mean, he says it touched off his career as being seen as the voice of authority.
No, I mean, when he started getting commercial work for voice, they were like, we need the voice of God.
They asked me to just give us the sound of God. Goodyear Vector tires, Let God sell Goodyear Vector tires.
No problem.
They had they were not embarrassed about saying that,
So do you have a voice of yours that you think of the voice of God?
No.
That's the kind of language people would use. And then that did get sort of literal. I mean, he did read the King James Bible.
Acts chapter 1. The former treatise have I made, O Theophilus, of all that Jesus began both to do and teach.
And you're totally right that Darth Vader would not be Darth Vader without his voice. I love the 27% better. Do you remember the movie Sneakers?
Yes, of course.
The James Earl Jones cameo in that movie did exactly that for me. I really like that movie, but then when he shows up at the end, I'm like, yes! Like, it's such icing on the cake of a fan favorite. So.
And I think it's true for The Lion King as well. So The Lion King kicked off the renaissance of Disney animation.
Yeah.
Like, The Lion King was where people started saying, yo, these animated movies need to be nominated for Oscars. Like, what is happening? And it is because of James Earl Jones and to a lesser extent, not even to a lesser extent, also Jeremy Irons, two Shakespearean actors, right? Master thespians, truly. James Earl Jones as the father makes Mufasa so compelling to the point where when Whoopi Goldberg and Cheech Marin are doing the whole thing where she's like, say, Mufasa, say it again. Like, you get it because you're like, that is the presence that this lion has. Totally. And then there's this line that lives rent-free in my head. Yeah. This line that he says to Simba when Simba goes to the elephant graveyard when he's not supposed to, and he goes, "You deliberately disobeyed me."
You deliberately disobeyed me.
Yeah.
And he says it so fast and he enunciates it so perfectly.
Yeah.
Once again, you would be like, never, not on your life, not in this world, could that be a stutterer?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your thing number 3 and my thing number 2 pair together really well, leading from behind and Master Thespian. You look at the roles, and he's the king in Coming to America. He is the king in The Lion King. He is...
Can we just say real quick, Coming to America, that's where Lion King comes from, because his wife, the queen in Coming to America, was Madge Sinclair. And the queen in The Lion King is Madge Sinclair to his king in both Coming to America and The Lion King. And Coming to America came out in 1988. So Disney was just like, king, queen, done.
Yeah.
Boom.
Speaking of lines that live rent-free, the moment where he is like having a birds and bees talk with Prince Hakeem and says, it says like,
I am not sure if I am ready.
Son, I know we never had to talk about this, but I always assumed that you had sex with your bathers. I know I do.
the way he says that, like, he's so excited to be like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about? I don't know. It's like, awesome. Love this. Master Thespian. Let me give you my number 4. I wrote Broad Smile of Contentment. Ooh. I heard him give a talk where he was saying, we talk about the pursuit of happiness. Happiness makes me uncomfortable. What if we said contentment instead? I hadn't thought about the word content or contentment in a long time, because for me, it's happiness and like acceptance and a sense of peace. One of the things I love about James Earl Jones is this really is an incredible career in the way that it's unlikely that he ever found his way into this work, that he did put in a tremendous amount of hard work from a very unique perspective for 14 or 15 years before he had a breakout. He gets a lot of critical acclaim, and then he gets a lot of commercial opportunity as he ages. You just chart it out that way. That speaks to contentment, you know? And I see it on his face. I love his smile. It just like spreads across his whole mouth in this just wonderful way. So that is kind of a small thing, but I wrote Broad Smile of Contentment for my thing number 4.
Yeah, I like that. I'm not sure if he was 1,000% content, because I think there were still things that he was grappling with.
Oh, I agree. But I like that he's offering contentment as a virtue instead of happiness. Happiness to me is dopamine hits. It's short term. Contentment is more like a way of being that is an aspiration. That is what I want to be going for. And I guess it was a reminder that that's what I want to be aiming at, is not necessarily, God, I want to be happy. I want to be able to say, I want to be content.
And I think he has a countenance of contentment. And I think by that definition, I think he was pretty happy with his life. It was not perfect. There's a lot. I think there is a lot of gratitude. One thing that this reminds me of on the Master Thespian point is that acting is so much who he is, and it was the lens through which he perceived everything. Like, it was through acting that he finally developed a bond with his father, who was absent for all of his childhood years, right? This is also why his obituary was so great. It was his acting work that really pushed him to grapple with race relations more than he might have if he were not an actor. Though he does also say, if I hadn't been an actor, I probably would have been a revolutionary, because at least theater gave me a way to channel this and a way to kind of change minds. Like, he talks about how theater builds experiences and can change hearts and minds without the lecture.
One other thing we should add just about the unlikeliness of his career. So he was at the University of Michigan. He was one of the first members of his family to pursue a college degree. Towards the end of it, it's Korean War. He's part of the ROTC. He thinks he's going to be deployed. And there's like an Army colonel who's like, what do you really want to do? I'm not sure the Army's right for you. He's like, I've always had a dream of acting. It's like, why don't you go try that? An Army colonel said this. It's just such a like unlikely journey. All right, what do you got for number 5? I know you've been saving something.
So for me, number 5 is The Man. The Man is both a 1972 film that James Earl Jones starred in, and there are some parallels to James Earl Jones himself in it. So The Man is a film about the first Black U.S. president. Right. And the screenplay, funny enough, is by Rod Serling, the creator of The Twilight Zone, based on a novel. So, yeah, and it's set in the present day of 1972. Basically, the entire line of succession dies. President, vice president, Speaker of the House, and they get down to James Earl Jones, who is essentially senator as president. And the way that it's treated, the film just reads differently now that we've actually had a black president, because in 1972, they treat the specter of a black president with like shock horror. It literally, the music goes dun dun dun. You know what I mean?
Is this a movie that we should watch? Is this good?
Yeah. It's good because in 1972, race issues were still really raw. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated in 1968. And that's also part of why it reads differently. Like, the idea of having a black president then is much more shocking. The N-word is still being used casually, you know? So he's a professor by trade. And the white senators who are still full of their racism, like this is Southern Democrats at their peak, are saying to him outright, we expect you to be the nice, mild-mannered senator that we pretty much installed as a senator. We expect you to continue to be that as a president and to do nothing more.
So, I mean, as you're watching this, are you thinking, I mean, you hear professor, you think Obama, right? And like, as you're watching this, were you thinking, huh?
Well, not only was I thinking, huh, because yeah, Barack Obama was a con law professor, but in the film, the most racist white senator says flat out, you know, I can tolerate this professor, and he says it with so much spit and so much hatred that you know he means something else. And the funny thing is that when Obama was actually president in 2008, Mitch McConnell and the other Republican senators also referred to him as professor, with all the venom that you can imagine. So the parallel is really intense. And this professor who becomes president, it really takes him a while. He's very soft-spoken about race. He's very thoughtful and very intellectual until he's finally just kind of pushed too far. And even his comeback to them is from an intellectual standpoint. And that kind of reminds me of James. So James Earl Jones, when he speaks about race, and this is why it was kind of a journey for me to kind of come to him, he speaks about it in a quite detached and intellectual way. Like, he'll talk about black people and then use pronouns like they, even though he very much identifies as a black man. But also later on, James Earl Jones's politics are different from other artists of his time, like, say, James Baldwin or Ossie Davis, who was an actor and an activist. So, for instance, what James Earl Jones does, one of his major projects was playing Paul Robeson in a one-man play.
Help me understand Paul Robeson. And like James Earl Jones playing him, because there was like controversy around this.
Yeah, so Paul Robeson is a figure from the early 20th century. He was a scholar, an athlete, an actor, a singer, and an activist. He was a Renaissance man in the true sense of the term. He was a threat to the white establishment because he was so talented, so intelligent, and so outspoken about his politics and his views.
And yet in 1978, he was the epicenter of one of the most intense offstage dramas ever to rock the American theater. The play was Paul Robeson.
You got to remember that every actor, every activist, everybody in the country at that time were being asked to take sides.
And every place we played, in whatever city we played in, there were people who Paul's son had recruited to picket the theater.
I then went to Paul Robeson Jr. and asked him, why was he protesting the play? He said, because the play did not do his father's memory justice.
And most of their critiques were without having ever read or seen the play. So it was the idea of raising this character, of playing Paul Robeson, that had them up in arms. And by someone who probably was not the most overt activist, like Ossie Davis, like his wife Ruby Dee, like James Baldwin.
Opposition mounted. An ad signed by more than 50 prominent black celebrities and civic leaders condemned the play.
I had kind of come to peace and then saw this conflict with James Baldwin and was shocked because James Baldwin is so articulate about the issue of race in America. Like, he still is mind-blowing for us today. Yeah, to this day. And his stature only grows the more that he's revisited. And it's funny, James Earl Jones refers to James Baldwin as Jimmy Baldwin. And James Earl Jones basically says about James Baldwin, you know, he lives his life on high in Europe and then parachutes in.
Paris, right?
Yeah, he lives in Paris and Turkey and, you know, other places. He parachutes in when he sees an issue that he wants to discuss and that he wants to speak for Black America and speak for the race. And James Earl says, I resented his spokesmanship.
Okay, so these two roles, this is all in your thing you love. Help me understand it as a thing you love.
I think what I love is what it tells us about the time. So to be very clear, the role in The Man is not anything like Paul Robeson, the character or the person. The role in The Man is a lot like the way James himself seems to be approaching race and politics, this kind of very thoughtful, soft-spoken, intellectual aspect, right? And so I love that because one, I think The Man is something that folks should revisit. And two, I think it's very interesting to have a different take on people like James Baldwin. People should revisit Paul Robeson, and this play is not a bad place to start. James Earl Jones is thinking about it differently than the convention of the community. And he is very quick to say race is not the number one problem that the Black man faces. He recognizes it, I think, in a lot of the same ways that I do, which was part of me kind of coming full circle with him. He recognized that not enough has been done, but are you going to let that stop you? Which is exactly how I think a lot of us feel about it. A lot of folks, I can't speak for everyone, but I know that's how I feel about it. Like, it is there. It is always there. It is harmful, but are you going to let that stop you? No.
I think what you said earlier really resonates, that like what you love is that this is a moment to be studied and understood. This whole podcast, Nichelle, is an opportunity for me to take an interest in subjects that I feel like I should have learned in high school. And whenever we choose a Black figure, there's always an education for me in terms of African American history. I never had a Black studies class in college. Like that was true with everybody, Muhammad Ali and Hank Aaron and Aretha Franklin and Tina Turner and Maya Angelou. I mean, it goes on, so, and I think that James Earl Jones is actually a kind of fascinating figure in that light, in that he is, like Sidney Poitier, he's somebody who just codes for a lot of dignity and grace and authority. But there is a kind of question that I didn't really understand about how pioneering he was and his role choices were.
Yeah, and also wanting to get to, like, the reason why I think he talks about it and doesn't want to discourage young people is that we all know that the ideal is this true sense of not colorblind the way that it's being co-opted now, but the idea of like the content of my character, not the color of my skin. Like, we know that that is the goal. But then how do you acknowledge the reality that that is not the world we live in? It wasn't then and it isn't now.
His story embodies that tension.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way that I don't think I knew. I don't think I knew until I got here. Okay. All right. Well, let's leave it at that. Let's recap. So number one,
I stutter, therefore I am.
Number one, I stutter, therefore I am. Number two, I said lead from behind. Number three, you said master thespian. Is that right?
Yes, because I will say, because I got to see him live playing Big Daddy and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in London. So I actually got to see him at work.
Cool.
It was dope. It was dope.
That's awesome. All right. Number four, I said big, broad smile of contentment. And number five, The Man. Great list. Let's take a break.
At Raising Cane's, we're hyper-focused on being the best at what we do and getting it right every time. Cook-to-order chicken fingers, cane sauce, crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, Texas toast, iced tea, and lemonade. It's our one love. But is the hype real? Yeah, it's real good. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Next time, order with our app or online.
Derry is a beautiful place, but things do happen from time to time.
A new HBO original series. Folks are getting funny ideas.
Keep the people you love close. Your lives depend on it.
It begins here.
There's something here. Something bad.
Welcome to Derry, streaming Sundays at 9 p.m., exclusively on HBO Max.
Hey, Famous and Gravy listeners, Michael Osborne here. Our podcast is produced at 14th Street Studios. Over the course of this show, we have learned that the best podcasts don't necessarily require a large budget. Famous and Gravy has been an incredible success story, and we believe it's built on a foundation of strong ideas, smart editing, and knowing your audience. That's the approach we bring to every project at 14th Street Studios. So if you have an idea for a show that you want to develop, or if you want to sharpen an existing show, send me an email at michael@famousandgravy.com. Okay, category 3, One Love. In this category, we will each choose one word or phrase that characterizes James Earl Jones's loving relationships. First, we will review what we know about the marriages and the kids. Okay, 2 marriages. The first to Julienne. James was 37. They divorced at 41, about the time that his rocket ship of fame was really taking off. They met when she played Desdemona in Othello. A second marriage was to Cecilia Hart. James was 51 when they got married. She died when he was 85 years old. They had one child. She died of ovarian cancer, so he was widowed at 85. She also played Desdemona after they got married. There was this myth that he married all his Desdemonas, but that's not true.
I have a quote about that. He actually says, "I will concede that I have had a way of falling in love with my Desdemonas, but I've had more than 10 Desdemonas, for crying out loud."
That's sweet. Do you want me to go or you want to go lead?
I mean, we're almost at it. Mine is Othello and Desdemona.
Okay.
It started out being just Desdemona, but then it became Othello and Desdemona when I thought about his kind of family life. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like with his wives, when you think about Othello and his kind of view and his juxtaposition with Desdemona, he's both kind of idealizing of Desdemona, yet Desdemona is also kind of distant from him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a detachment there, and maybe it's destructive. I mean, he does end up killing her. So, and I felt like maybe it was unexpectedly.
It's a little cynical. Huh? Nothing. I like where you're going with this. Yeah, keep going.
He does.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe it was unexpectedly illustrative of his view of the women in his early life, you know, especially his mother and grandmother. This idea that he loved and revered them, yet at the same time, when he describes them, there's a fair amount of judgment and detachment. He talks about how they're dramatic and they're ferocious, and he kind of exoticizes and others them in a way that I think we typically think Othello does of Desdemona. James Earl is so thoughtful about Othello that he's like absolutely like changed my view of Othello. Like I want to revisit it now after hearing his analysis of it, because he goes so much deeper than anyone has. But look, James Earl Jones has 2 wives. They were both white.
Yeah.
There's this very kind of clear parallel that his wives and all the loves we know of in his life have been white women. Othello is the character he most identifies with. And then the reason why I added Othello and didn't say just Desdemona is because I started to feel like James was maybe not fair with his mother and grandmother and was overly reverential of, say, his grandfather. But then you look at his relationship with his father, and his father's a very complicated relationship too. So it really is about the people who are close to him. He has this detachment. Like with his father, they were friends. Like he even surmises whether or not his father was a little bit of an Iago. So with one of his early Desdemonas where they have a crush on each other, his dad makes a point of being like, oh, you know, she was flirting with me.
Right.
Just so you know, she really liked me.
Yeah.
And just this idea that there's this latent competition because his father was an actor.
Yeah.
James Earl became an actor. James Earl was more successful. Like there's this latent kind of competition. I think later on it becomes much more loving and supportive. Like as James Earl is going through the Paul Robeson controversy, his father's very much a supporter and a protector. But yeah, Othello just is this current that runs through James's life and how he even views the people around him.
Yeah. Okay, I love it. Mine is similar. I wrote even playing field, and here's where I'm going with that. So one, I was thinking about Field of Dreams, and I do like even the obit described him as farm boy, and I do think that he has a sort of like man of the earth quality that he gets from his grandfather. Something else that struck me, he is like technically an only child. His grandparents, their youngest is only 4 years older than him, Randy. So he's almost like a older brother. And then the way he describes his relationship with his father, it gets complicated because his dad was kind of cut out from being able to be a father. It didn't sound like, it wasn't clear if he wanted to be, but he wasn't able to be. And his dad was a prize fighter and then became an actor and was blacklisted for a while because of political views. And James Earl Jones describes it as, look, the opportunity for him to be a father, that wasn't possible by the time we reconnected, because they didn't reconnect until his early 20s. So there was something about the kind of cross-generational flattening that happened that led me to even playing field. That, and you mentioned both his wives were white. It's noteworthy, right? That a black man in the 60s marries a white woman. That's not as common. And so all of it led me to even playing field. Is that a lame metaphor? Maybe it is. I don't know. In a way, I didn't have a whole lot to say in this category.
Yeah.
Is there more to say?
I mean, I don't know that there is. Like, he was able to finally have a child with his second marriage.
Who's apparently doing voice work now, Flynn. Does audiobooks.
Really?
Yeah, I saw he's getting work at doing, which is great. So apparently the voice
That's
is
lovely. Yeah,
at least
Flynn
partly
Earl
genetic.
Jones.
Yeah.
Beautifully named. Robert Earl Jones, James Earl Jones, Flynn Earl Jones.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Category 4, net worth. In this category, we will write down our numbers ahead of time. We'll then discuss our reasoning, and then finally, we'll look up the net worth number in real time to see who's closest. And lastly, we will place this person on the Famous and Gravy net worth leaderboard. He is insanely prolific. He is saying yes to everything. Mm-hmm. He's on the stage, he's on TV. What really led me to a slightly higher number is some of the commercial work. So there's Pacific Bell. He was the voice of CNN.
This is CNN.
The voiceover work looked pretty lucrative, and it looked like there was a lot. So I kind of skewed high, and I thought a little bit about comps. I figured he had to be a little bit higher than Sidney Poitier, only because of the longevity of his career. And Sidney Poitier was at $25 million.
Okay. Oh, I skewed higher as well.
Okay.
And for me, I'm very specifically including what I call the last transaction. And this is the deal that he made to license his voice to Lucasfilm.
Yes.
And maybe Disney, Lucasfilm, whatever it is, but he's licensed his voice to be used as Darth Vader using AI far into the future, basically into perpetuity, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And so that licensing deal, it better be lucrative.
I would
and
hope,
again,
he
with the
did
residuals.
Not get paid for the original. I mean, it was like $9,000.
He got paid like either $7,000 or $9,000 is all he got.
And he got like
paid
a bonus,
for the first
and
one.
like Christmas bonus. George Lucas gave him like another $9,000. Like that was really good.
Yeah.
But
So I think it was $7,000 for the first gig, and then $9,000 is Christmas bonus, which is ridiculous because it was already like the world's largest blockbuster at that time. It had come out as Star Wars.
Right.
So I think he probably but he did the voice in the more recent trilogies.
Right.
So I'm sure he got a good payday for those, kind of make up for lost time. And then I think this idea of licensing his voice basically into perpetuity, which is going to benefit his family, I would hope and believe that is huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and reveal. So Nichelle Carr wrote down $70 million.
And Michael wrote down $40 million.
The actual net worth for James Earl Jones is estimated at $40 million. I got it perfect.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, that never happens. I feel like light bulbs
I'm
are
a
going
little
off.
bit bummed for James.
40, really? 40
maybe
million's a
they're
lot of
counting
money.
what it is now. Maybe they're not counting this last transaction, which is going to pay dividends going into the future.
Oh man, I'm so glad I reasoned. I gotta say, I'm proud of myself. I don't have that many wins today, Nichelle, but this is one of them. Well done, James Earl Jones. All right, $40 million. Let's put him on the Famous and Gravy net worth leaderboard. So at $40 million, he is in the 46th percentile. The other people at the Famous and Gravy $40 million net worth dinner table include Peter Fonda, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Bob Dole, Nora Ephron, Wes Craven, and Patrick Swayze. That's a good table.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's some fun conversations going on there.
I bet him and Patrick Swayze would get along.
That's who I was thinking.
I
I think he would have a lot to talk about with Patrick Swayze. Nora Ephron and Bob Dole can argue in the corner. Zsa Zsa can just do her thing. All right, well done, James Earl Jones. $40 million. Okay, next category. Category 5, Little Lebowski Urban Achievers.
They're the Little Lebowski Urban Achievers.
Yeah, the Achievers.
Yes, and proud we are of all of them.
In this category, we each choose a trophy, an award, a cameo, an impersonation, or some other form of a hat tip that shows a different side of this person. I'll go ahead and give you mine. I found a reading that James Earl Jones did of a letter that Kurt Vonnegut wrote to a group of high school students. So there's a series on YouTube that I learned about called Letters Live, where people read inspirational letters. Apparently in 2006, a group of students at Xavier High School in New York were given an assignment by their English teacher, Miss Lockwood, that was to test their persuasive writing skills. They were asked to write to their favorite author and ask him or her to visit the school. 5 of those students chose Kurt Vonnegut. He didn't make it, but he did write a letter to them. And it's a short letter. James Earl Jones reads it as part of this series in 2018. The gist of the letter, I mean, this is, both a Vonnegut, who we've done on the show, of course, and James Earl Jones' point. But the gist of the letter is, it's a simple message: do art.
What I had to say to you, practice any art, Music, dancing, acting, drawing, painting, sculpting, no matter how well or badly, not to get money and fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you.
It's a hilarious and beautiful letter, and the way James Earl Jones reads it, like he nails it. It's just like it's your 27% better point from earlier. It's so wonderful to hear this famous author talk to a group of high school students in the voice of, I don't know if you want to say voice of God, but the voice of Darth Vader anyway. So that was my Lebowski. I just love this moment. And I ended up bringing it up to a friend recently. Look, something that's become really important for me in my life, I didn't know this, Nichelle, until I got really deep into my research as a PhD, how important it is to have a creative outlet. That needs to be a daily intention. Am I feeding my creative outlets? That's what this really said to me, because when I do that, it exercises parts of my mind that are otherwise not finding an expression. So that was my moment.
Awesome.
All right, what do you got?
So I had like 3.
Yeah.
I'm going to narrow it down to 1.
Okay.
In 1969, he participated in test films for the children's education series Sesame Street. You may have heard of
this.
it.
Yes, I saw this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he did a bunch of test films, and this was a children's educational series put together by people who do kind of children's educational work. It wasn't just TV people. It was a combination of TV people and like academics.
Yeah,
and
so
they did
the workshop
a bunch of
thing,
testing.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, children's television workshop.
Yeah.
And the film that had the greatest impact with test audiences, which were groups of children, the one that had the most impact was James Earl Jones Counting to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That was it. That was the best one. That was the best one.
I mean, that tracks.
So
that totally tracks.
Yeah, he's technically the first celebrity guest star on Sesame Street, but he didn't air first. Carol Burnett's segment aired first, but he filmed first.
Wow.
As a celebrity guest star.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty amazing.
That is dynamite. Awesome one.
One other quick one. Darth Vader is a gargoyle on the Washington National Cathedral. Did you know that?
Really?
So the Washington National Cathedral, one of the gargoyles on the cathedral is Darth Vader.
Really?
And to my point of Darth Vader would not be Darth Vader without James Earl Jones's voice, like that is the level of impact this guy has. They did some renovations, obviously, within the past 50 years, and they added Darth Vader's head. It's very recognizable to the Washington National Cathedral.
Holy cow. That's beautiful. You said you had a third, Lebowski?
Yes. This one, folks should know this, but it just cannot be overlooked. It is in Treehouse of Horror 1 from The Simpsons, which I believe is the second season of The Simpsons.
The Raven?
The Raven, exactly. James Earl Jones recites Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven with Homer as the protagonist and Bart as the Raven.
The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary,
While I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly came a tapping, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
I'm glad we got that in. Thing number 3, The Raven. All right, let's take one more break.
Hey, football fans, Gillette's Best Shave has a new look this season, and it's looking smooth, almost as smooth as my voice. We're talking about the new collection of Gillette Labs official NFL licensed razors, featuring the team colors and logos of 12 NFL franchises. These razors are a must-have for fans that want to experience the confidence and pride of game day every day. With Gillette's best blades and flex disc technology, Gillette Labs lasts 50% longer on average compared to Fusion 5. So get it while you can, online or at a retailer near you. Gillette's Best Shave is now the best a fan can get. Gillette Labs, also available in heated. Gillette is a paid partner of the New Heights podcast.
What can 160 years of experience teach you about the future? When it comes to protecting what matters, Pacific Life provides life insurance, retirement income, and employee benefits for people and businesses building a more confident tomorrow. Strategies rooted in strength and backed by experience. Ask a financial professional how Pacific Life can help you today. Pacific Life Insurance Company, Omaha, Nebraska, and in New York. Pacific Life and Annuity, Phoenix, Arizona.
Category 6, words to live by. In this category, we each choose a quote. These are either words that came out of this person's mouth or was said about them.
You know what? This actually gets to your point about contentment. This is related to that. So when he's breaking down Othello as a character, so Othello, who has roots in Mauritania. So Othello was actually a real person. I didn't even know this. He was a real person. There was a novella that had been written about him, and then Shakespeare kind of did his play based on that. Okay. So he's highly fictionalized in the way that we know him, but he was a real person, and he was a Spanish Moor. So he has roots in Mauritania. His first language is Arabic, second language is Spanish, and then he finds himself in Italy in Venice as a general. And so he comes from high birth. He's an aristocrat. He's a noble. Yeah. And so James Earl Jones is saying that what Othello would be thinking as a stranger in a strange land in Venice is that he's thinking, look, I have had such privilege to have been all over this world. If this experience I have had does not give me the grace to be gentle with you, then life has wasted all these experiences on me. So in short, if you do not come out of your life experience with overflowing grace, then it has all been a waste. You have not really lived. You are but a ghost. And I'm like, that's beautiful.
I saw that. I loved it. I read that twice. I thought that was so beautiful. Yeah. And I do think that one of his defining qualities is grace. Like, this is a very, very graceful man.
Yeah, and gracious.
And gracious.
Graceful and gracious.
Yeah.
All of it, yeah.
Okay, I'll give you mine. He said, and this goes back to his roots as a stutterer. He said, one of the hardest things in life is having words in your heart that you can't utter. This is what creativity is, right? We have this stuff inside of us that we don't even know what it is. And it's got to find a way out. And this is a man who found that and found his channel and found it through characters and found it on TV and on stage and in film and in voiceover work. And it found it in playing this instrument that is the human voice. In a way, it's literal, but this is true of every creative outlet. One of the hardest things in life is having words in your heart that you can't utter. And part of our task as people is to figure out a way to utter those words. So that was my words to live by.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Okay. Category 7, man in the mirror. This category asks a fairly simple question. Did this person like the reflection, yes or no? This is not about beauty, but rather a question of self-confidence versus self-judgment. I think we can make this kind of a fun category. One thing about Great White Hope, that man looked incredible. Like, he is cut and like, holy cow, James Earl Jones is a stud in that movie. And he trained like crazy to play the role of a prize fighter. I wonder about the stutter as a point of insecurity. I also think there's no way around it. This man struggled with sweets. I mean, I think he carries the weight well, but is a heavy guy. And he even talks about that. I saw him in an interview say somewhere, one of the myths I have in my head is that I can eat just one cookie. And I relate to that. I cannot eat just one cookie. And I do think that that plays into this question. Ultimately, I see a man who is in command of his voice and largely in command of his body in as much as we ever can be. So with all the ways I'm making it complicated, I lean towards yes.
I also had yes, and I said yes, and that he came to it through the hard work of introspection.
Yeah.
Like, I think the work of kind of writing an autobiography, his analysis and breakdown of acting, like even just the way he describes method acting and things like that, it's beautiful. Like,
well, and he's not a method actor, right? This is one of the interesting points is that Lee Strasberg is like, you're the rare bird who would not benefit from any kind of training.
You already
do your thing. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you already have a technique. There's nothing, I don't have anything to teach you.
Which is really interesting because he's hanging out with that crowd, like Brando and Newman and, you know, all those people hanging around the actor
studio. He applied to
studio.
Strasberg's school 7 times and was rejected 7 times. And Lee finally told him, he's like, hey, because you didn't need it. And James is like, sure, okay. So being an actor and really embracing the stutter, not overcoming and leaving it behind, but embracing and integrating that stutter is just emblematic of this idea of self-love and self-acceptance. So I said yes also.
One of the things that's interesting about the stutter is I heard him say in other places, people will read a certain kind of emotionality in an effort to get something out. Like, it plays to his advantage in a way.
Does the stutter come back very much for you?
You've heard it several times now. It's always with me, you know. And I have to be careful not to talk too fast. It certainly becomes a problem whenever I do something emotional, whether in real life or as an actor. I think Gladys Vaughn was the first to notice it. She says, when you get emotional, when your Othello, for instance, gets emotional, I sometimes believe you less And it's because I'm being too careful. You can't measure out emotion. It has a flow.
But it's funny because once he tells you that information, you suddenly become very attentive to when he is and is not stuttering in a way that you would not have known had he not told you that this was part of the condition. So we're both yes and a yes. Let's move on. Category 8, cocktail, coffee, or cannabis. This is where we ask, which one would we most want to do with our dead celebrity? So I struggled here because sometimes I approach this category as opportunity to unlock or ask something that I'm still sort of curious about. I don't know that I have that here. I don't know that I want something from him that he hasn't already told us or said. So maybe this is a cheap way out. I try to keep a dream journal. I'm sporadic about it, but you know how dreams just like leave you within the first minute of waking up?
Yeah.
I've done a thing where I try and roll over and I'll either dictate it into my phone or I'll try and scratch some things down. And the more you write them, the better you remember them. Some of my dreams are, to me, fascinating. So I want to get high and have James Earl Jones read my dream journal.
Oh.
I just think that'd be an interesting way to experience my dreams because there is a command of voice. There is like, these chambers in him, like a tuba or like an instrument. What was the one you said earlier?
A sousaphone?
A sousaphone, yeah.
They're different, yeah.
Whatever.
They're both very low horn instruments.
Right. I mean, it's booming. So, yeah, I want to get high and have James Earl Jones read my dream journal. This was the fantasy I came up with. I don't know. I don't have big questions here exactly. What about you? How did you think through this category?
I think for me, it's cocktail.
Okay.
He can have his favorite, whatever that is, and I'll have, old-fashioned, whatever.
You had an old-fashioned with Gregory Peck. You got to choose a different drink.
I think the perfect drink for James Earl is the Dark and Stormy.
Oh, that's perfect. Rolling Thunder. Well done.
Rolling
yes,
Dark and
okay.
Stormy. It's rum. That's a very kind of Caribbean black drink. It signposts him as Darth Vader and how dark, like even the Darth Vader theme comes to mind when you think about that.
Choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But I want to have a cocktail because I do think, I totally agree with you that I feel like there's not a whole lot that he's not open about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's forthcoming.
But I do still think that there are some things that I would want to work through and noodle about with him.
Make that specific. What's the question you would want to put to him?
I think it's really the politics stuff. I think I would want to, the fact that he can talk about politics in a way that seems like he doesn't want to talk about it, that he can be so fierce in this, I am a human, do not put me into a box. And the way he talks about his family, he's quick to point out that his family is very mixed, which clearly he has blue eyes, gray eyes, green eyes, light skin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
His mother
he
was Native American, I think, or part Native American.
Well, she was black, but she had Native American blood.
Yeah.
So in his family, there's African blood, Native American blood, and Irish blood.
Right.
He has a great-great-grandfather who was a slave who married a white woman back in the 1800s. So and I'm like, oh my God, that's such his origin story, a black man and a white woman.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. He really threw me out. Part of the journey was he would refer to his heritage as Caucasoid, Negroid. No, first Negroid. He knows he's black. I don't want to do him a disservice. But like all of us Black Americans, we are mixed. I have Native American blood in me that I know. And that's part of why I look the way that I look, right? But he would say my family is Negroid, Caucasoid, and even Mongoloid. And I'm like, oh my God.
James, you can't say that.
Right. It's not even like you can't say that, like someone's going to be mad at you. It's like, these are race science eugenics terms.
Totally.
Don't.
Yeah. No.
They are incorrect.
Right.
They are doing a disservice to you and your family.
Right. Yeah.
This is not where we're going. It is nuts the way these terms are used and what they mean and what they signify. So I'm just like, oh my God, we need to work through this. But like I said, I think his intentions are good. I can get there, but I feel like there's some stuff that I want to understand about his self-understanding. I think we'd have a lot of agreement, but he just expresses them and processes them differently. And I think I'd want to go through that without filters.
Yeah, because there is a way in which he's pioneering. I watched a lot of interviews of him talking about Sidney Poitier, who is the sort of first, blockbuster Hollywood black star.
Mm-hmm.
His career is extraordinary and happens at a time where all these issues are coming to the fore or entering a new chapter in American history. So I would want to listen in on that conversation, Nichelle.
Yeah, and also I'll just say, I think because he is just one kind of I don't know if he's one generation or one kind of step behind Sidney Poitier.
Yeah, I mean, he describes it as like the next crop is what he says. And
yeah, exactly. He's the next crop, like the next class of actors kind of like coming through. That maybe makes it harder because there are expectations there.
Yeah.
It also could mean that maybe he felt like he had the freedom and the liberty to be like, I don't have to get into this. But it's one of the reasons when I was saying like, I watch A Great White Hope and I wasn't really looking for it. I knew I was going to have to watch blah, blah, blah. And I realized that even though it is early on, it doesn't feel groundbreaking. And when I think about why it doesn't, it's because, you know what? I already saw Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Right.
That already came out.
Right.
And In the Heat of the Night already came out, where Sidney Poitier slaps a white man in the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
And demands to be called Mr. Tibbs. So Sidney Poitier had already kind of tread that ground of, I am the defiant, standing up for myself black man.
Yeah.
And so when you see The Great White Hope, you're kind of like, like it doesn't feel as fresh and as new as maybe you would want it to.
To the extent it is groundbreaking at all, it feels incremental, not earth-shattering.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's good because we need to relearn our history until we finally learn to stop repeating it, which we're in the process of doing right now.
Yeah, you and I need to start a podcast all about this. All right. Pin in that thought. In the meantime, we have arrived. Category 9, the Vanderbeek, named after James Vanderbeek, who famously said in Varsity Blues,
I don't want your life.
In that Varsity Blues scene, James makes a judgment that he does not want a certain kind of life based on just a few characteristics. So here, Nichelle and I will form a rebuttal to anyone skeptical of how James Earl Jones lived. Where does James have a point? Why would you not want this life? I suppose there is a certain amount of, I don't know if it's alienation exactly, but there does seem to be a tremendous amount of reverence. I think there's camaraderie. I think that there's community. But I still sort of detect some hint of loneliness in all of that somehow.
Yeah.
You know, do you see that too?
Absolutely. Detached is how I described. And maybe it's one of those things when you're trying to examine yourself for an autobiography that maybe you're going to convey detachment even if it's not there. But I feel like, he was an only child raised by his grandparents. His grandparents were certainly lovely. No issues there. But there's this question around his mother and his father. Like with both of them, he doesn't feel fully comfortable, fully in their bosom the way that a child should.
Yeah. The relationship with his dad and the way he describes it as almost closer to a friendship than a father-son relationship, on one hand makes sense. On another hand, that's confusing. I don't know. I mean, I'm grasping at straws a little bit for why you might not want this life.
No. One of the first things he says is that in my large family, your personality didn't count for much. You needed to do your chores, earn your keep, carry your load. And it kind of reminded me of Gregory Peck. He wasn't in a big family. He was almost an orphan because his parents were just all over the place, just gone, absent, working nights, just not there, not present.
Yeah.
And so he felt like, he had to earn his keep. He had to make himself easy to love so that someone would be willing to take care of him. And they both found solace in the structure of military life.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's something there with him and his family not feeling like the full cocoon of support that a child can feel from their family. And then I think in his adult life, with him and the other community Black actors, so there's a way to be Black and not feel fully accepted by the Black community. And I think all the controversy around the Paul Robeson play, the fact that other actors felt fit to protest his work, like Ossie Davis and James Baldwin were out there protesting his work.
Yeah.
It leaves you feeling a little bit outside of that community. And that's a community you need to lean on. Like, he very much understands what it means to be a Black actor and how difficult and how tough that is. And when you don't feel that support the way that you need it, I think that's hard too. That can be lonely making as well.
Yeah. Really good point. That Paul Robeson play, I'm sure, to your point, affected him on a deep level.
Yeah. And I will say Paul Robeson's grandson was in support of it. So the family was kind of all over the place too with that. So.
All right. Well, let's move on to why you would want this life. I think the reasons are pretty numerous. I mapped out earlier, I think that this is one of the more perfect careers. Whatever career you are in, doesn't have to be creative. If it starts off with an unlikely origin story to years of struggle to critical acclaim and to ultimately financial success, that's kind of how I want everybody's career to go. That's certainly how I want my career to go. I find that deeply desirable. Point number one here, though, and maybe I'm burying the lead, is to take something that was an affliction, an inhibitor, something that held him back, this stutter, and then turn it into one of the most memorable, recognizable voices of all time. Like, it is going to be remembered, to your point about Darth Vader, for forever. That's amazing. It's just such a powerful lesson of this is how we're supposed to, I think, deal with fears, the things that we feel like are holding us back, barriers, frustrations in life. Unlock something deeper in you to get through that. And that is such a deep and profound life lesson. I mean, that's reason number one. And that it leads to the career is really downstream of that.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. I think that's why I'm so moved by it, and that he doesn't let that go, that he makes sure that we all know that this is possible. Hugely inspiring. I also think just to be, his career itself, just to be so good. Yeah. Just so good. Watch me. I am so good at what I do.
He looks like he's having fun. There's a great moment where I saw him talking about this point of contentment where he slips into the Darth Vader voice and the audience just goes bananas, right? He says something about Obi-Wan and it's him, I think he is having a good time on stage. I think he's exploring himself through a range of characters. I think he is discovering leadership within himself and a command of his own physicality.
And when I say be good at something, it's so nice to stretch yourself, to grow, to feel like you're going as deep as you can go. Like we talked about how thoughtful and intelligent and smart he is about the craft of acting, in addition to being an incredibly emotional and compelling actor. That's fulfilling.
I think, and he owns it too. I'm remembering this now. I think it was in a Fresh Air interview where he talked about learning to own his talent. It's okay to say I'm very good at this. And in fact, I'm supposed to. I'm not supposed to have false modesty.
You're the only person who can tell whether you have talent or not. And there's a certain point where you got to be really honest with yourself and say, yeah, I do, and I'm going on, or no, I don't. And your parents can't do it for you, your critics can't do it for you. Once you determine that, then there should be no room for doubt.
So with that, James Vanderbeek, I'm James Earl Jones, and you want my life. Before we close, if you enjoyed this episode and you're enjoying our show, and if you've got your phone in your hand, please take a moment to share this with a friend. We want to grow our podcast one listener at a time. Okay, speed round. Nichelle, plugs for past shows. If people enjoyed the James Earl Jones episode, what else might they like from the Famous and Gravy back catalog?
Well, can I do two?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, hell yeah. This is all.
Okay. I think Tina Turner and Aretha Franklin.
I love it.
And I like that because, one, Tina, she feels to me like she was off the beaten path just a little bit.
Yes.
You know, she obviously overcame adversity and she has an amazing voice. She's compelling. But yeah, just the idea that she is very recognizably Black, but is marching to the beat of her own drum.
Yeah, I love that episode.
And then Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul.
Yeah.
And that is just the idea of mastery and versatility.
And excellence.
Quintessentially being at the top of your game is amazing.
Episode 87, Simply the Best with Tina Turner, and episode 101, Soul Queen, Aretha Franklin. I'm going to plug episode 95, Total Consciousness with Harold Ramis. There's something about this idea of contentedness that I think he has. So there's something about these two rotund men.
I mean, Harold Ramis wasn't rotund until the end of his life. Well, same for James Earl. They
exactly,
both,
right?
Yeah,
they
both at the end of their
lives. They put it on the
lives.
pounds.
Yeah.
Not to judge, but it just happened. All right, so episode 95, Total Consciousness, Harold Ramis. Here is a little preview for the next episode of Famous and Gravy. In 1958, she married an architect from Jamaica. They were divorced in 1964. In interviews, she rarely spoke of the marriage, though she intimated that her husband had wanted a traditional 1950s wife, and that she could never be.
Oh my gosh. This is a hard one.
Famous and Gravy listeners, we love hearing from you. If you want to reach out with a comment, a question, or to participate in our opening quiz, email us at hello@famousandgravy.com. In our show notes, we include all kinds of links, including to our website and our social channels. Famous and Gravy was created by Amit Kapoor and me, Michael Osborne. Thank you so much to the wonderful Nichelle Carr for guest hosting. This episode was produced by Ali Arazola with assistance from Jacob Weiss. Original music by Kevin Strang. Thank you, and see you next time. Follow Famous and Gravy on the Wondery app. You can listen to more episodes early and ad-free right now. by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.